Morgan, welcome to Sydney in Australia.
Thanks, it's great to be here.
It's been a while since I've seen you. When I saw you last, you were working in Hong Kong. You're now working in Dubai at Jumeriah Central, where you're the COO. In a region that's renowned for mega projects, the project you're currently working on is one of the biggest. Would you mind telling us a little bit about this project, what you're doing on it, and what it means for Dubai and the region?
Well, the first thing is I don't think of it as a project. I actually think of it as a district of the city, and rarely does one get the opportunity to really plan what is 400 acres in the centre of what is one of the most important cities in the world, Dubai, in fact the fastest growing city in the world today. And to me it's been much more than just a real estate opportunity. It's a way that we can use the built environment and the planning that we undertake to change the way of life for Dubai. Dubai is a city that, as we know, has had an explosive growth over the last 15 to 20 years, and in that process there's been a real sprawl, if you like, where, because it's essentially desert and the city is primarily a car-driven modality, what's happened is you've got this enormous footprint that has been established, and what Jumeriah Central is an opportunity to stitch the city back together. And so not an urban regeneration in the way that we would talk about here in Australia, but really the creation of urbanity for the first time.
Wow.
So I'm very excited about the prospect of improving people's quality of life, reducing the amount of time people spend in a car, and providing this new millennial generation with what they want, which is that ability to live and work and be entertained in a fairly tight, small district that has all of the mobility and connectivity that they desire.
Well, it's interesting. It's all relative, I guess. You know, you say a small district. What did you say it was? 400
acres.
400 acres. That's a huge area in any city. What are the strategic elements that are critical to building this modern city for Dubai? What is it's going to be different about the project and the end result that's going to really change Dubai?
I think it starts with trying to understand people the best we can, and whilst that sounds simplistic, because of the dynamic nature of the world today and the different needs and wants of respective generations, it's hard to be in that role of being a city builder where you're trying to create something that has relevance over the next, say, 50 or 100 years, and try and anticipate what are the priorities for humanity in urban environments over that period. So we try and separate the things that are more temporal in nature, or fads. We call them the apps. Yeah. And we separate those from the operating system. You always need the operating system. So when you identify the enduring qualities of what make great cities, you find they're simple ingredients. They're things like mobility. Everyone needs to be able to get around a city. We need to be able to access employment, recreation, leisure, opportunities in a democratic way. So that's a big part of the social equity story that we're trying to create. The second thing is we need to feel that we have a level of social connectivity or interaction, and we feel like we belong to the city. So I take a lot of time thinking about how the built environment that we create will promote and encourage that collision coefficient, that opportunity for people to have chance encounters, which stimulates commerce, a sense of community, and can even stimulate education and social interaction that provides a fulfilling life.
And that must be, you know, that's incredible to hear that, and particularly so in the context of Dubai, which I guess has grown so quickly from such a small beginning, really, in such a short space of time. And you know, one of the personal experiences that I've had with Dubai is that it does feel that it's fairly artificial at times, and it's quite isolating for people to live there. So everything you talk about there is actually starting to build a traditional city with the connections and the sense of place, the linkages, the culture. You know, that must be equally or incredibly more challenging than, say, in other established cities to create this new place in such a new environment.
Yeah, I liken what we're doing at Jumeriah Central to walking up to an ice cream store in Dubai. And when you walk up to an ice cream store, there's one flavour that you always expect to be there. And in Dubai, it's not there. Dubai, you've got chocolate chip and cherry on top, and you've got tutti frutti and all these weird and wonderful flavours, but there's no vanilla. And we're delivering vanilla.
Yeah.
And there's a reason that vanilla is the biggest selling ice cream flavour in the world.
People like it.
People like it. And I think in a city that's got so many iconic projects and these trophies that are, quite, from an engineering and architectural point of view, marvels, that you need a little bit of normal. And so we're really prioritising functionality, convenience, a sense of value for people, rather than something you look at and you see and you wonder, you sort of wonder how it got built.
Awestruck by it.
Awestruck, yeah. We're trying to create something that's more intuitive.
Yeah.
So that it feels like you've been there
real.
before, it feels authentic, and it feels like the built environment can contribute to your life in whatever it is that you're aspiring to do.
So tell me a little bit about the process of making this happen, and your role in that. It's obviously at a different scale to a lot of us are working in Australia and other places. How do you go about making a project like this come to life and achieve, most importantly, those objectives?
For me, I think I'm in a very fortunate position, having lived and worked in so many different countries over the last few decades, that I love observing the world and studying all the cities that I've lived and worked in, but just visited as well, and trying to find common themes that result in positive outcomes. And so when I arrived in Dubai 2 years ago, I tried to bring everything that I'd ever learnt before to bear on this challenge of taking 400 acres of sand and turning it into an enduring, high-value city centre. And what I started with was really just thinking about what people want. I started thinking about transport and the building blocks of value, accessibility. I love the idea of using mixed-use typology of real estate to create that vitality and economic resiliency that is lacking in many parts of Dubai and other cities. And then really focusing on the civic aspect of what we do and creating places where people want to be. So none of it's rocket science, and in Australia you see evidence of wonderful public realm, great buildings, a lot of vitality in many of the bigger cities. So there's no silver bullet to creating the new city of the future, but it starts with a deep understanding of humanity, urbanisation, and the challenges and preferences that those things present.
So Morgan, tell us a little bit about the challenges facing this project. And I guess Dubai, like a lot of countries, suffered pretty heavily during the GFC. What's the outlook now for Dubai in terms of global investment, confidence for people to come to and live in Dubai? What's your view on the future of Dubai, and what does it mean for the project you're working on?
I think broadly speaking, the two challenges for any large undertaking like this, no matter where it is the patience. To see something that's going to take 20, 25 years to come to fruition, to see it through and retain that sort of that vigilance, if you like, for the principles that you set out to achieve, and not be affected by economic cycles that come and go. When you're contemplating something of this scale and you put that timeline against an economic cycle, invariably you're going to experience periods of, bullish behaviour and also periods of more economic difficulty. So the important thing is to not be too reactionary to those good times, where you really lean into it and build a lot and create a whole lot of inventory. And then at the same time, when times are tough, to have the fortitude to maintain that discipline going forward. Specifically as it relates to Dubai, I think it has a unique challenge in that most of its development over the last 20 or 30 years has been fueled on the back of oil, if not directly, then indirectly by the neighbouring countries. So it's done a terrific job of diversifying its economy away from oil and gas by using the proceeds of those resources to essentially build a city and create industry and employment in the services and manufacturing sectors. But going forward, with oil prices at a different level to what they have been, the gap between the ambition and the ability to fund the ambition has probably never been wider. So what that now requires is foreign direct investment. And Dubai hasn't needed to rely upon investment in the way that other developing nations have. If you look at China, for example, over the last 20 years, it's built its economy on the back of FDI. from all over the world, people bringing capital there to exploit the opportunity that China has represented. That's very, very different to the Middle East, who've done it all themselves without that FDI. So what we're doing at Jumeriah Central is we're creating 278 buildings in this new city centre, and we're doing it in a way that we think will be conducive for attracting institutional investment. So rather than creating schemes and creating buildings that are going to be more orientated to private ownership or trophy buyers, for instance, we're focusing on those fundamentals of real estate investment that would cause big pension funds, sovereign funds, institutional investors broadly to look at Dubai in a new way. And we're excited by the feedback that we get, that people say we want exposure to Dubai. We look at our map of exposure across the portfolio. We own buildings everywhere, but we don't have any exposure in the Middle East. And Dubai is the natural place to have that. And they lament the fact that there's not been the opportunity to do it earlier. So it hasn't taken much to sort of put that buyer-seller opportunity together. It just needs us to create clear title, sensible buildings that are properly managed, and that will grow according to the economy. So that's, having that investor mindset as you're a city builder is very, very important from the outset.